Convicted murderer Judith Ann Neelley is currently in Alabama State Prison for the murder of Lisa Ann Milliken. Tomorrow morning, she is getting a chance at parole. But Neelley also had victims in Georgia. We hear from a man who was shot by Neelley and left to die. He told me about his experience with the woman who he calls pure evil.
I live in the twilight zone, reliving the same moment over and over in time. Every single day, I think about Janice Kay. I think about what's happened to me in my life.
The tragedy that has caused so much pain in John Hancock's life was caused by Judith Ann Neelley.
Because everybody needs to know what kind of monster that woman really is. If I compared her to anyone, she'd be Alabama's version of Charlie Manson.
Judith Neelley is currently in Alabama State Prison for the 1982 murder of 13-year-old Lisa Ann Milliken. But a week after Lisa was murdered, John and his fiancée, Janice Kay Chatman, also had a deadly encounter with Judith. It all started when she asked for directions near Rome, Georgia.
She called off the name of a road, I think it was Barker Road.
Judith pretended to not understand the directions they gave her, so John and Janice Kay got in the car with her and ended up meeting up with her husband, Alvin Neelley.
Alvin Neelley decided that he wanted me to go with him and Kay go with Judith Ann Neelley because the twins, their children, were with them, was with Alvin.
After they drove for a while, they pulled over on a dirt road for John to go to the bathroom, but then Judith followed him with a gun.
And the last thing she told me while she stood behind me was that she was going to take care of my girlfriend too.
And then she shot him.
So I took a half step to the left, which repositioned my body about a half an inch, which I think that's what saved my life.
He was eventually picked up by a trucker and taken to the hospital where the bullet was removed. The next day, he was at the Rome police station sitting on a bench when he heard a recording of Judith Neelley's voice coming from a room where police were investigating the Lisa Milliken murder.
I stepped into that office and I looked at Kenneth Kynes. He says, "You have to leave. I've got an interview." I said, "Yes, I know that, but the woman on that tape is the one who abducted me."
John described the Neelley's vehicles to police, which led to their arrest 12 days later in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Then the next day, they revealed where Janice Kay's body was.
She had been raped, battered, tortured, injected with Drano. Everything they had done to Lisa Ann Milliken, they did the same to Janice Kay.
But there was one exception.
When Judith Ann Neelley shot Janice Kay in the back, it did not kill her. Alvin Neelley grabbed up Janice Kay and put her against a tree, and Judith Ann walked right up and point blank to her chest, shot her again, and ended her life.
But now, 35 years later, the nightmare continues. Judith Neelley was given the death sentence in Alabama for the murder of Lisa Ann Milliken. But in 1999, Governor Fob James commuted her sentence to life, and now after some legal proceedings, Judith has been granted a parole hearing.
First thing I said to all my friends, "You've got to be kidding. You know, how can a convicted murderer be commuted to life and then be allowed parole? That's like giving someone a loaded gun and telling them, go out there and kill as many people as you want."
If Neelley was to be granted parole in Alabama, she would then be sent to Georgia prison for the murder of Janice Kay. But John Hancock says he wants her to stay right where she is.
I would rather her serve that term in Alabama, seeing that Lisa Ann Milliken was taken first and that she was the minor of the bunch.
John Hancock now lives in Texas and cannot attend the parole hearing, but this is what he would say to the parole board about the woman who murdered his fiancée and forever changed his life.
I'll tell them they had to be out of their mind if they even thought to ever let that woman out of prison as long as she lived. They would be setting free the most evil-minded person since Charlie Manson. That she is the female version of that man, and she should never be set free.
And we reached out to Judith Ann Neelley and did not get a response. Her parole hearing is tomorrow morning in Montgomery, and we will be there as we continue to follow this case.